Accessing library computer data.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Captain's Drydock, and yes, it's titled Windows, but what I mean by that is the clear parts within that kit, because it's not good just when you actually make this model, glue it all together, and you find out the light just doesn't seem to go where you want it to go in regards to its windows, the warp nacelles, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do in this episode is concentrate on making sure that your light can really shine and look beautiful in your model, and that's what we're going to do now. New windows. Round 2 are the current model manufacturers of this kit, which they recast in clear plastic. This was due to the realization that many of us wanted to light our models, and to do so back in the day we had to drill windows into what used to be opaque plastic, which never looked that good, and that's included in several of my own attempts. Now all we have to do is either mask the windows or scratch them out after painting, which is exactly what the model makers did at Industrial Light and Magic on the Studio Enterprise D. However, in this kit there's 2 noticeable windows that need some work. The top rear section, which is the ship's arboretum, this wasn't sculpted well at all and is too small for the model. And then there's the bottom saucer section, where there's a central indented window which is completely missing and stands out like a sore thumb. If you check out episode 5 accurate parts on this playlist, you'll see how I corrected these issues with green strawberries brass etchings. But in this episode I shall be making these parts better by making these windows mimic the look of having glass. Yes, I know, for those who know Star Trek like the back of their hand, starships in the 23rd century do not have glass in their windows, they have force fields.
There's no glass.
However, this is a model based on a studio model which had solid windows, which I think was fiberglass or plastic of some kind. And also I don't want to just leave holes in the model because dirt and debris can actually get inside the model, and also it looks like I've attacked it with a drill and just left it there. Trust me, this effect will look cool no matter what. Tools. For this I'll need clear cast and the catalyst, a mixing cup, spatula, scales, latex gloves, and most importantly, safety glasses. You may be tempted to use cheap disposable water cooler cups like I did, but be warned, the chemicals you're dealing with will slowly break down the plastic and it will leak everywhere, so it's worthwhile to buy sturdy mixing cups instead of a replacement tabletop. Clear cast. There's many options of achieving the window effect, such as a clear epoxy glue, but I'm going to use a resin called clear cast to achieve the window effect, as it can easily be sanded flush if need be later on. As its viscosity is low, it will drip through the window's holes. To stop this, I'm using a barrier, sellotape. I just need to stick it carefully on the exterior side, making sure it's sealing all the holes and making sure it's flush. Clear cast stinks, so make sure you do this in a well ventilated area or even outside. Place the cup onto the scales and switch it on. This will zero the scales, so it will only read the cup's contents and not include the cup's weight. Pour the clear cast slowly. I'm using my own judgment to how much I require, as I only need a small amount, but it's always better to make more than what I need rather than end up with not enough. This particular brand requires 2% of the weight to be catalyst for it to cure, and by that I mean for it to set into a hard resin. I'm using a syringe that comes with the resin to extract the catalyst, which will make it much more easier to accurately add the correct amount into the cup. So with a little maths, 2% of 45 is 0.9. So I'm going to round that up to 1 and add that to the clear cast in the cup, which will bring it up to 46 grams. Now I just have to slowly stir the mixture, making sure I don't encourage air bubbles to develop, as I don't have a degasser machine to remove them later on. But as this is such a small amount, it shouldn't be an issue. the pour. Take your time. Clearcast takes 20 minutes to become a jelly-like substance before it sets, and then takes a few days to harden, perhaps even up to 7 days. So you have plenty of time. Make sure the resin gets into all the corners. I'm using a toothpick to help me out on this one. Top tip. I recommend leaving it overnight, but before you start prodding it to see if it's set, check the mixing cup instead, as if it's not set, you'll end up leaving fingerprints in the window. If you love removing anti-scratch film from new iPhones, you'll love this stage, when you have to slowly remove the sellotape. And there you have it, Windows. Tints. If you look carefully, especially at the new Blu-ray screenshots, the Enterprise windows are lit up in a mixture of white, blue and a few yellow windows dotted around the primary hull. This is a very important detail as some windows are clearly blue like the Arboretum. For this I'm using gels. These are clear acetate sheets used for studio lighting. These are cheap and really effective in a sectional model that uses a single colour light source. All I need to do is cut a piece off, and with a nice thick slow setting glue like UHU, I can take my time to position the tint to the interior of the windows. And there you have it, tinted windows, which I've also applied throughout the model, making sure I've got a correct ratio of white to blue to yellow windows. Warp glow. The most iconic part of the Enterprise is the blue glowing warp nacelles, so it's important to get this right. For these I don't require blue gels as I'm using blue LED light strips, but what I do need to do is something called diffusing. If you look at the non-diffused example, you can easily see it's being lit up by individual LEDs in the strip, which isn't an accurate look. Now look at the part that diffuses the light in comparison. This looks like it's lit up with one single long light source, which is the effect I require. The easy cheap solution I've used is to back the interior of the clear parts with the kind of tracing paper you can get from a stationery shop. All I need to do is cut out a large piece of tracing paper, and then I apply it with using a slow setting glue that's good for sticking different materials together. Now I delicately touch the tracing paper into place. After a few hours drying time, the excess tracing paper just needs to be trimmed. Although I've covered the next part in a previous episode, I'll quickly mention it again now as it's the same subject matter. Buzzard ram scoops. These are the red parts of the warp drive. This will be much simpler to do, as all I need to do is rub them down with 250 grit wet and dry. But this isn't it, as I need to achieve the cloudy effect of the inside of the scoop as can be seen in the show. So I use a low-tech solution of filling the parts with kitchen cellophane. Warp 8 Commander data. Engage. So I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this episode of Captain's Drydock. Now, as you can see, there was a lot of trial and error on my part to get where I am now, because the last thing you want to do is close your model together and find out it's not lighting exactly the way you intend it to. So hopefully you've learned something from my mistakes from the past, and I've now put it onto video on YouTube. If you did learn something, by all means click the like button below, and if you've got any questions, just put down a comment or even contact me directly. And if you want to see the next episode, which I guarantee is going to be a corker, because I'm going to glue the model together. Yep, it's a big deal. All those electronics glued together in a little sarcophagus of a plastic model and never to be opened again, hopefully, and it will all work. So if you want to see that, click on the subscribe button again just down below, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. But before I go, I'd like to leave you with a quote from Commander Worf. Thinking about what you cannot control only wastes energy and creates its own enemy. Kapla! Anyway, you take care, everyone.
Accessing library computer data.